Under the blinding arena lights, Jin stood before tens of thousands with the same poised elegance that has defined his career, yet something about him felt unmistakably different. His posture was steady, but not as effortless as before. His smile reached the audience, but its warmth seemed tempered, as if holding back an unspoken truth. The question that erupted across fan communities worldwide was sharp and urgent. Is Jin BTS okay? For ARMY, this was not a passing observation. It was the accumulation of small but telling signs, slight hesitations between movements, a subtle slowing of his gestures, and moments where his gaze lingered downward longer than expected. To the casual observer, these could be dismissed as fatigue after a demanding performance. But to fans who have studied his every appearance for over a decade, these were deviations that could not be ignored. The moment that sent social media into overdrive came at the close of a recent concert. Jin, normally animated during farewells, paused mid-sentence. The microphone hung loosely in his hand, his eyes scanning the crowd in silence for several seconds before he spoke again. His words of gratitude were sincere but unusually restrained. The vast arena, still echoing with chants, seemed to grow quieter as if sensing something was amiss. Cameras captured the scene in high definition, and within minutes, frames of that pause were circulating globally, each fan dissecting his expression for clues. From Seoul to Sao Paulo, Tokyo to New York, ARMY members compared notes, analyzing clips from multiple angles. They noticed that during certain high-energy segments, Jin appeared to conserve his movements, opting for precision over exuberance. Some linked it to a demanding schedule, citing recent back-to-back travel commitments that would challenge any performer. Others wondered if the change was deeper, perhaps signaling a need for rest that had gone unaddressed. Photographs taken backstage after the event intensified the debate. In several images, Jin's complexion appeared slightly paler under the harsh lighting. While such changes could easily be dismissed as a product of stage conditions, longtime fans argued that this was not the vibrant presence they were used to seeing. Theories multiplied. Was it exhaustion, a lingering physical strain, or something entirely different? The absence of clarity made each possibility feel equally plausible. What struck many was the contrast between his vocal performance and physical demeanor. On stage, his voice remained strong, clear, and controlled, hitting every note with the same technical mastery he is known for. Yet the delivery carried a different energy, measured, almost economical, as if prioritizing endurance over flair. For an artist celebrated for blending precision with charisma, this shift was hard to overlook. Witnesses at a recent fan meet reported another subtle moment that fueled speculation. While greeting attendees, Jin briefly placed his hand on the table in front of him, leaning slightly as if to steady himself. The gesture lasted only a second, but for fans attuned to his usual confidence, it was jarring. That single movement became a focal point of online discussions, replayed repeatedly in slow motion to determine whether it was accidental or indicative of something more serious. The emotional reaction from ARMY has been overwhelming. Across fan spaces, messages of support have flooded timelines, replacing the usual stream of concert highlights with heartfelt reminders for him to rest and take care of himself. International fan bases have organized campaigns of encouragement, creating digital spaces filled entirely with words of love and concern. The tone has shifted from celebration to vigilance, from excitement to collective worry. Cultural commentators point out that Jin's situation reflects a larger truth about the modern entertainment industry. Global icons are often expected to maintain an image of tireless perfection, even when personal well-being is at risk. For someone like Jin, whose public persona has long been defined by warmth and resilience, showing signs of strain can feel out of character, prompting heightened scrutiny. Fans, deeply invested in his journey, are left to grapple with the tension between respecting his privacy and demanding transparency for the sake of reassurance. In the days since that performance, every public sighting of Jin has taken on heightened significance. Fans analyze the speed of his steps, the brightness of his smiles, even the positioning of his hands. Each photograph is treated as potential evidence, either a sign that he is recovering or proof that the concern is justified. The absence of direct updates only intensifies this analysis, turning even the smallest gesture into a headline within the fandom's global network. What is perhaps most striking is Jin's ability to maintain composure in the midst of this wave of speculation. Despite the visible changes, he continues to fulfill his commitments with professionalism, delivering performances that meet the high standards he has set throughout his career. This determination, while admirable, also fuels the underlying worry. Is his commitment to the stage coming at the cost of his health? The closing image of that recent concert continues to linger in the minds of those who were there. As the final notes faded and the lights dimmed, Jin waved to the crowd. His smile was there, but his eyes, magnified on the arena's massive screens, seemed momentarily far away. It was a fleeting look, quickly replaced by his familiar brightness, but for many, it spoke louder than any words could. The question remains unresolved, hanging heavily over the global fanbase. Is Jin truly okay? Until that question is answered, ARMY will continue to watch, analyze, and hope, ready to celebrate his return to full strength, but unwilling to ignore the signs that have already shaken their confidence. In the glow of the stage lights, every movement tells a story, and right now, that story has left millions on the edge of their seats, holding on to hope while bracing for answers. In the hours after the concert, the discussion shifted from casual observation to urgent concern. Online spaces became digital command centers, with fans from different time zones exchanging updates, sharing video footage, and cross-referencing appearances. High-definition still frames were scrutinized for facial tension, posture changes, and micro-expressions. The sheer volume of content dissecting Jin's every move was unprecedented. Even in a fandom known for its meticulous attention to detail, some analysts within the fan community began building timelines, mapping out Jin's recent public engagements to detect patterns. A recurring observation was the increasing proximity of his appearances, events scheduled back-to-back across multiple cities, often separated by flights that would allow for minimal rest. Under ordinary circumstances, such a schedule might be manageable, but with the added physical demands of live performance and the emotional intensity of fan interactions, the cumulative strain becomes evident. In performance footage from earlier in the tour, Jin is seen moving with fluid, unrestrained confidence. Yet, in the most recent recordings, his stage presence, while still charismatic, appears more measured. There is a deliberate economy to his gestures, as though conserving energy. Even his signature wide-arm waves have been subtly reduced in scope, replaced by smaller, precise motions that maintain fan engagement without requiring the same level of exertion. The vocal analysis also tells its own story. Professional vocal coaches reviewing the latest performances noted that Jin's breath control remains intact, but his phrasing choices have shifted. Longer pauses between lines, reduced improvisation, and slightly softened dynamics suggest a conscious effort to manage output. While this could be a strategic artistic choice, the timing of the change has only intensified speculation. Adding to the complexity is the shift in how the crowd responds to him. During earlier performances, fan chants were almost deafening, driven by pure excitement. Now, there is a distinct note of caution in the cheers, an unspoken agreement to observe as much as to celebrate. Audience members report moments where the entire arena seemed to hold its breath, watching for signs of discomfort. It is a stark reminder that the relationship between Jin and ARMY is built not only on entertainment, but also on mutual emotional investment. The backstage reports, though unverified, have further fueled the fire. Accounts describe him moving carefully between set changes, sometimes escorted more closely by staff than in previous events. Observers claim that crew members were subtly repositioned to ensure unobstructed paths for him, a precaution that, while practical, also signals heightened awareness of his physical state. Such behind-the-scenes measures rarely escape fan notice, and in this case, they have been interpreted as silent confirmation that something is amiss. Psychologists who study celebrity fan dynamics note that the current wave of concern is not simply about physical health. For many fans, Jin represents stability, a constant presence through the group's highs and lows. When that stability appears threatened, even subtly, it can trigger a strong protective response. This explains why the tone of fan discourse has shifted from excitement about upcoming events to discussions of rest, well-being, and longevity. International ARMY communities have taken tangible steps to express their concern. Some have launched online letter projects, compiling thousands of messages urging Jin to prioritize his health. Others have created visual campaigns, with artwork and digital banners circulating widely, each carrying the same core message: his well-being matters more than any single performance. These acts of solidarity are more than symbolic. They are attempts to bridge the gap created by the absence of direct communication on the matter. Yet, the silence from official channels continues. In its absence, even small moments become magnified. A candid photograph of Jin arriving at a venue with a faint but visible tightness in his jawline becomes a topic of global discussion. A fan-shot video capturing him exhaling deeply between songs is looped endlessly online, its meaning debated in comment sections that span multiple languages. The lack of definitive answers ensures that the speculation will persist, each new sighting either fueling hope or deepening concern. What is undeniable is the resilience Jin continues to show. Despite whatever he may be dealing with privately, his professionalism has not wavered. Each performance is still delivered with the same level of precision that has earned him global respect. This ability to maintain such high standards, even under possible strain, is both admirable and alarming. It underscores his dedication while reminding fans of the potential cost of such unrelenting commitment. As the next scheduled appearance approaches, anticipation is mixed with anxiety. Will it be a return to the energetic, effortless Jin ARMY has always known, or will the subtle signs of strain persist? For millions watching around the world, that answer cannot come soon enough. Until then, the question remains, echoing in every conversation, every post, every sleepless fan's thoughts. Is Jin BTS truly okay for now? The lights have dimmed, the stage is empty, and the world waits, not for the next performance, but for a sign that the man behind the music is as strong as the songs he sings. Under the shadow of that unanswered question, the days have stretched into a tense waiting game. Every digital update related to Jin, whether it's a fan-taken airport photo, a blurred snapshot in a car window, or a fleeting clip from a private schedule, has been met with microscopic examination. ARMY members around the globe are no longer simply consuming content. They're studying it. They track his expressions frame by frame, searching for the smallest cues: a stiffness in his shoulders, the duration of his eye contact, the tightness of his smile. The heightened scrutiny is not without reason. For an artist of Jin's stature, sudden deviations in demeanor are rare and carry weight. His decade-long track record has been defined by consistency, both in performance quality and in the effortless warmth he projects toward his fans. That consistency is precisely why any alteration, no matter how small, now lands with disproportionate impact. Fans are not reacting to a single moment. They are responding to a perceived pattern that has developed over several weeks. Some point to a specific stretch in the schedule as a potential turning point. Multiple international flights, minimal recovery time, and high-pressure performances in succession form a physical and mental toll that even the most seasoned entertainers cannot ignore. For Jin, whose reputation is tied to precision and presentation, the threshold for visible fatigue is higher than most, but that threshold may have been crossed without the public fully realizing it at first. Performance analysts have noted that while his vocal delivery remains technically flawless, there is a noticeable shift in his engagement during high-energy segments. Crowd interactions, once spontaneous and full of banter, have become shorter and more focused. His movements between set pieces appear more intentional, with reduced bursts of playful improvisation. While some may attribute this to artistic evolution, the timing of the change has aligned too closely with other signs for many fans to dismiss. Inside the fandom, a quiet divide is formed. One group insists on absolute patience, arguing that speculation can become invasive and harmful. They urge others to trust that Jin will share what he chooses, when he chooses. The other group believes that raising visible concern can serve as a protective measure, encouraging rest or schedule adjustments. Though their approaches differ, both sides are united in one unshakable truth. Their care for Jin is unwavering. The emotional weight of this shared worry is visible in how fans now experience his appearances. Moments that would once be celebrated for their artistry are now overlaid with a secondary narrative of concern. A wide smile is met with relief. A subdued gesture prompts renewed analysis. Even the collective cheer of a stadium crowd feels different. Less a display of unrestrained joy, more an act of reassurance sent toward the stage. Industry observers caution that such dynamics can become self-perpetuating. The more fans search for signs, the more they find them, whether or not they are truly indicative of a larger issue. Yet, in the absence of clear answers, this cycle shows no sign of slowing. The feedback loop between Jin's visible presence and the fandom's emotional state is now firmly in place. International fan bases have amplified their expressions of concern in ways both digital and physical. Massive LED billboards in major cities have displayed messages urging him to prioritize his health. Online, coordinated streaming events have been reframed not just as support for his work, but as a symbolic gesture of unity and care. These campaigns, while celebratory on the surface, are underscored by a deep, shared apprehension. The center of all this is Jin himself, continuing to fulfill his commitments with the same outward professionalism that has defined his public life. Yet, the cost of such professionalism remains the unspoken question. How much of what fans see is the true measure of his current state, and how much is the perfected image of an artist determined not to let his audience see him falter? The closing moment of his last performance lingers in the collective memory. The lights dimmed, the final notes faded, and he turned for one last wave. His smile was there, polished, practiced, and beautiful, but in that fraction of a second before he stepped off stage, his eyes seemed to drift, as if somewhere far beyond the cheers and cameras. It was a moment so brief that it could have been nothing at all, yet it has been replayed and analyzed countless times, each viewing deepening the sense of unresolved concern. Now, as the date of his next scheduled appearance draws near, the anticipation is unlike anything in recent memory. It is not driven by curiosity over what song he will sing or what outfit he will wear, but by the urgent need to know, will he seem stronger, brighter, more at ease? Or will the same subtle signs return, reminding the world that beneath the lights and applause stands a man who might be carrying more than he lets on, for millions of armies watching? The answer to that question cannot come soon enough. Until it does, the global conversation will remain suspended in the same tense rhythm it has held for weeks, half celebration, half vigilance, and wholly centered on the man they call worldwide handsome, whose presence means more to them than any performance ever could.